so bewildered. A month ago my dear mother was deprived of the use of her limbs. She is already better, and in another month would, I am sure, be able to travel, in the way you were so kind as to say you would arrange for us. But now everybody is gone. Everybody. As they went away, each said that perhaps my mother would be better before we were quite deserted. But 3 days ago I went to Samuel Wood's, who on account of his newborn child remained to the last, and there being a large family of them, I thought I could persuade them to wait a little longer for us, but I found the house deserted. I have not seen a soul since, till this good man came. What will become of us? My mother does not know our state. She is so ill that I have hidden it from her. Will you not send someone to us? I am sure we must perish miserably, as we are. If I were to try to move my mother now, she would die on the road, and if when she gets better I were able, I cannot guess how, to find out the roads, and get on so many miles to the sea, you would all be in France, and the great ocean would be between us, which is so terrible even to sailors. What would it be to me, a woman who never saw it? We should be imprisoned by it in this country, all alone, with no help. Better die where we are. I can hardly write. I cannot stop my tears. It is not for myself. I could put my trust in God and let the worst come. I think I could bear it if I were alone. But my mother, my sick, my dear, dear mother, who never since I was born spoke a harsh word to me, who has been patient in my sufferings. Pity her, dear lady. She must die a miserable death if you do not pity her. People speak carelessly of her because she is old and infirm, as if we must not all, if we are spared, become so. And then, when the young are old themselves, they will think that they ought to be taken care of. It is very silly of me to write in this way to you, but when I hear her trying not to groan, and see her look smiling on me to comfort me, when I know she is in pain, and when I think she does not know the worst, but she soon must, and then she will not complain, but I shall sit guessing at all that she is dwelling upon, of famine and misery, I feel as if my heart must break, and I do not know what I say or do. My mother, mother for whom I have borne much, God preserve you from this fate. Preserve her, lady, and he will bless you, and I, poor miserable creature as I am, will thank you and pray for you while I live. Your unhappy and dutiful servant, December 30th, 2097. Lucy Martin. This letter deeply affected Idris, and she instantly proposed that we should return to Datchet, to assist Lucy and her mother. I said that I would without delay set out for that place, but entreated her to join her brother, and there await my return with the children. But Idris was in high spirits and full of hope. She declared that she could not consent even to a temporary separation from me, but that there was no need of this. The motion of the carriage did her good, and the distance was too trifling to be considered. We could dispatch messengers to Adrian, to inform him of our deviation from the original plan. She spoke with vivacity, and drew a picture after her own dear heart of the pleasure we should bestow upon Lucy, and declared if I went she must accompany me, and that she should very much dislike to entrust the charge of rescuing them to others, who might fulfill it with coldness or inhumanity. Lucy's life had been one act of devotion and virtue. Let her now reap the small reward of finding her excellence appreciated, and her necessity assisted, by those whom she respected and honored. These and many other arguments were urged with gentle pertinacity, and the ardor of a wish to do all the good in her power, by her whose simple expression of a desire and slightest request had ever been a law with me. I, of course, consented, the moment that I saw that she had set her heart upon this step. We sent half our attendant troop on to Adrian, and with the other half our carriage took a retrograde course back to Windsor. I wonder now how I could be so blind and senseless as thus to risk the safety of Idris, for if I had eyes, surely I could see the sure, though deceitful advance of death in her burning cheek and increasing weakness. But she said she was better, and I believed her. Extinction could not be near a being whose vivacity and intelligence hourly increased, and whose frame was endowed with an intense, and I fondly thought, a strong and permanent spirit of life. Who, after a great disaster, has not looked back with wonder at his inconceivable obtuseness of understanding, that could not perceive the many minute threads with which fate weaves the inextricable net of our destinies, until he is enmeshed completely in it? The crossroads which we now entered upon were even in a worse state than the long-neglected highways, and the inconvenience seemed to menace the perishing frame of Idris with destruction. Passing through Dartford, we arrived at Hampton on the second day. Even in this short interval my beloved companion grew sensibly worse in health, though her spirits were still light, and she cheered my growing anxiety with gay sallies. Sometimes the thought pierced my brain, "Is she dying?" as I saw her fair fleshless hand rest on mine, or observed the feebleness with which she performed the accustomed acts of life. I drove away the idea as if it had been suggested by insanity, but it occurred again and again, only to be dispelled by the continued liveliness of her manner. About midday, after quitting Hampton, our carriage broke down. The shock caused Idris to faint, but on her reviving no other ill consequence ensued. Our party of attendants had as usual gone on before us, and our coachman went in search of another vehicle, our former one being rendered by this accident unfit for service. The only place near us was a poor village, in which he found a kind of caravan, able to hold 4 people, but it was clumsy and ill hung. Besides this he found a very excellent cabriolet. Our plan was soon arranged. I would drive Idris in the latter, while the children were conveyed by the servant in the former. But these arrangements cost time. We had agreed to proceed that night to Windsor, and thither our purveyors had gone. We should find considerable difficulty in getting accommodation before we reached this place. After all, the distance was only 10 miles. My horse was a good one. I would go forward at a good pace with Idris, leaving the children to follow at a rate more consonant to the uses of their cumbrous machine. Evening closed in quickly, far more quickly than I was prepared to expect. At the going down of the sun it began to snow heavily. I attempted in vain to defend my beloved companion from the storm. The wind drove the snow in our faces, and it lay so high on the ground that we made but small way, while the night was so dark, that but for the white covering on the ground we should not have been able to see a yard before us. We had left our accompanying caravan far behind us, and now I perceived that the storm had made me unconsciously deviate from my intended route. I had gone some miles out of my way. My knowledge of the country enabled me to regain the right road, but instead of going at first agreed upon by a cross-road through Stanwell to Datchet, I was obliged to take the way of Egham and Bishopgate. It was certain, therefore, that I should not be rejoined by the other vehicle, that I should not meet a single fellow creature till we arrived at Windsor. The back of our carriage was drawn up, and I hung a pelisse before it, thus to curtain the beloved sufferer from the pelting sleet. She leaned on my shoulder, growing every moment more languid and feeble. At first she replied to my words of cheer with affectionate thanks, but by degrees she sunk into silence. Her head lay heavily upon me. I only knew that she lived by her irregular breathing and frequent sighs. For a moment I resolved to stop, and opposing the back of the cabriolet to the force of the tempest, to expect morning as well as I might. But the wind was bleak and piercing, while the occasional shudderings of my poor Idris and the intense cold I felt myself demonstrated that this would be a dangerous experiment. At length methought she slept, fatal sleep, induced by frost. At this moment I saw the heavy outline of a cottage traced on the dark horizon close to us. "Dearest love," I said, "support yourself but one moment, and we shall have shelter. Let us stop here that I may open the door of this blessed dwelling." As I spoke my heart was transported, and my senses swam with excessive delight and thankfulness. I placed the head of Idris against the carriage, and leaping out scrambled through the snow to the cottage, whose door was open. I had apparatus about me for procuring light, and that showed me a comfortable room, with a pile of wood in one corner, and no appearance of disorder, except that the door having been left partly open, the snow drifting in had blocked up the threshold. I returned to the carriage, and the sudden change from light to darkness at first blinded me. When I recovered my sight, "Eternal God of this lawless world, O supreme death, I will not disturb thy silent reign, or mar my tale with fruitless exclamations of horror," I saw Idris, who had fallen from the seat to the bottom of the carriage. Her head, its long hair pendant, with one arm hung over the side. Struck by a spasm of horror, I lifted her up. Her heart was pulseless, her faded lips unfanned by the slightest breath. I carried her into the cottage. I placed her on the bed. Lighting a fire, I chafed her stiffening limbs. For 2 long hours I sought to restore departed life, and when hope was as dead as my beloved, I closed with trembling hands her glazed eyes. I did not doubt what I should now do. In the confusion attendant on my illness, the task of interring our darling Alfred had devolved on his grandmother, the ex-queen, and she, true to her ruling passion, had caused him to be carried to Windsor and buried in